This is a Shields of Shame exclusive.
Introducing Dick Donovan, the former district attorney of the Paulding County Judicial Circuit in Georgia. Dick's dedication to justice was well known, but his personal and professional lives became intertwined when one of his own, Jamie White, an assistant district attorney, was caught shoplifting at the Cedartown Walmart. The irony was palpable. Jamie, entrusted to prosecute shoplifters, found herself on the wrong side of the law. As the news spread, it cast a shadow over the reputation of both Jamie and Dick, who was left grappling with the embarrassment of the situation. Handling the case was Cedartown City Prosecutor Stefanie Burford, tasked with bringing Jamie to justice. However, behind closed doors, a controversial deal was struck between Dick and Stefanie. In exchange for dropping charges in one of Stefanie's cases, Jamie's charges would be similarly dismissed. Dick began harassing Jamie and wanted something in return for getting her charges dropped. Jamie began recording Dick and eventually sued and won a settlement for $300,000 for sexual harassment. Dick was investigated by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and charged with various crimes. Enjoy this exclusive content, and please consider becoming a member to support more content like this. This revelation sets the stage for a compelling series that delves into the depths of corruption within our judicial system. Through thorough examination of the facts and in-depth interviews, we will uncover the extent of misconduct among these government officials.
It's Friday, August 30, 2019 p.m. All right. So the purpose of the interview is because we got requested from the Attorney General's office to look into different allegations. And I think it stemmed from the civil complaints. That is my assumption of how it came up. I'm not looking into anything dealing with the civil allegations or anything like that.
Good. I was going to say he's got a civil lawyer, and I would want the civil lawyer to be here if it's anything dealing with that.
Right.
So.
We're not talking about that.
Okay. Good.
The main thing is just to clear up what transpired with Jamie White's arrest over in Cedartown. That's the purpose of this.
Okay.
And I think it can be cleared up pretty easily. And that's why I'm here. And that's why I'm talking to everybody I can, just to get this over with, right?
Okay.
So.
I'd like you to get it over with.
Yeah. All right. So if you can, how long have you been the district attorney here?
8.5 years.
8.5 years, okay. And how long have you worked with Miss White?
8.5 years.
Okay, so she was here prior to you getting here as well?
Yes.
Okay.
I've known her longer than that.
Okay.
She was a CASA. Do you know what that is?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
CASA, C-A-S-A?
No.
Court-appointed special advocate.
Okay.
She worked for, I don't know who she worked for, but she worked with children, court-appointed to look after children's interest in civil cases. And I did not know she worked here when I was elected. When I came into the office in January of 2011, I met the 22 people that were still here. 3 people had resigned. I brought 3 with me. There were 22 people, but I was surprised that she was here. I'd known her for a long time.
And what type of, and I don't want to get into the details of that, what type of relationship did y'all have? Working relationship?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do you recall the October 2017 incident?
Very clearly.
Okay. Can you walk me through your aspect of it, what you did?
Sure.
Okay.
At 5:11 on Saturday the 14th of October, my cell phone rang. It showed that Jamie White was the caller. Usually when I got a call from somebody in the office on the weekend, and especially one of the victim witness advocates, it had to do with some case, involving in the office. I answered the phone. I knew who it was, so I said, "Yes, ma'am," I think. And she was crying, and she said that she had been arrested in Cedartown for shoplifting and that I had to fire her. And I said, "No, I don't think so." And she continued to cry. I don't know how many times she said, "You have to fire me, you have to fire me, you have to fire me." And I said, "Well, tell me what's going on." She said she had been stopped at Walmart, that they had detained her. She had her little girl with her, and I think Ella was probably, well, I can tell you almost exactly because Ella was born the first year I was here in 2011, so in 2017 she would have been 6 years old. She had her daughter with her, and she said that the police were coming and that she was going to be transported. And I said, "Well, okay, what about your daughter?" And she said, "Well, I'm going to call Mama and tell her to come get her daughter." And I said, "Okay." And I said, "I'll come out there." And she said, "Okay." But she was crying. And I mean, I'm not talking about boo-hoo, I'm talking about sobbing. I'm not sure how to describe it. If you just think of the worst time you've ever seen a woman cry, she was sobbing like that. And I said, "Okay." It was a Saturday afternoon. I went upstairs, changed clothes because I wasn't dressed to go out, but I put on shirt and slacks and drove out to Cedartown. I called Jack Browning, who was the district attorney of the Tallapoosa Circuit, and asked him if it would be possible for him to arrange an OR bond for her. And he knew who she was. She'd been doing this job for a long time. And he said, sure. He didn't have a problem with that. He called me back and said that he had spoken to whoever he needed to speak to, and that was going to happen. And he said, "Well, I'll tell you, Dick, it looks like a dead bang case. They say they've got a real good case." And I said, "Okay, that's fine." I went out to the jail. I guess 30, 45 minutes later, she was released. In fact, I got there, according to the girl at the desk, I got there about the same time Jamie did. So I waited until she was processed, and that girl at the desk told me, she said, "We were told you were coming." So I waited. Jamie came out. Her mother was in the parking lot. We walked up there. I said, "I'll take you to your car, or your mother can take you to your car. I just wanted to make sure that, you got out on the OR bond." And she said, "Okay." And she sent her daughter home with her mother, and I took her to her truck. I don't remember when, but sometime during that evening or the next week, she expressed concern about her job, and I said, "Well, I'm not going to fire you. I've told you that." She was 38 years old. She had 2 children. Her husband's a teacher. He's a responsible individual. And I said, "I'm not going to fire you. You have no record. This is apparently an aberration." And her explanation to me was that it was a problem with scanning in the self-checkout. She said that the item wouldn't scan, and she thought she had put it back. I didn't have any reason not to believe her. She'd been a trusted employee for 6 years at that time. I'd known her for a long time. Didn't have any reason not to believe her. She was concerned because we're all GCIC certified. We have to be. And she's GCIC certified because we all have to deal with records. And she was concerned that if this arrest went as far as that it would show up on GCIC and affect her career. And I said, "Well, it's not going to affect your career with me, but I understand your concern." So sometime in the next week or so, I called Cedartown, because Walmart's in city limits of Cedartown, and asked who the city solicitor was. And I was told it was Stefanie Burford. Stefanie Burford used to prosecute for my predecessor, one of my predecessors, James Osborne, when he was district attorney. I think she was right out of law school. I remember that she married one of the other assistant DAs. I think his name was Ryan, but don't ask me any more than that. I don't remember. But they're no longer married, at any rate. She's in private practice. You drive by the hospital down here, and the road between I want to say between Business 6 and 278, she's got a billboard. She has a billboard where she's in leathers leaning up against a motorcycle. She advertises, and she's apparently fairly successful. I understand she's opened an office over in Marietta. In the meantime, she told me she was going to open another office. But she was the solicitor, and I called her and I said, "Can I come see you?" Now, you need to understand this, because this is, I can't say it any differently. If I had been a banker and Jamie had been one of my tellers, if I had been in private practice and she'd been my secretary, it wouldn't matter. I didn't go out there as an attorney. I can't. I'm not allowed by law to engage in private practice. I went out to see Stefanie because I know Stefanie, and I went out there as Jamie's employer and someone who I've always considered that she was a friend of mine. I asked Stefanie if they had a pretrial diversion program. She said no, they did not have a pretrial diversion program. This is my memory of my discussion, and this is over almost 2 years ago. My memory is that she said, no, we don't have a pretrial diversion program, but the case can be dismissed if she would agree to take an online course about shoplifting. I've never taken the course. I have no idea what it does. But Stefanie said if she would do that, and she would talk to the people at Walmart and see if it were okay with them, the case could be dismissed. And it wasn't apparently an unusual thing. Apparently it's not something that's all out of the ordinary to do that in lieu of a pretrial diversion program. So I said, okay, fine, I'll ask Ms. White if that's acceptable to her. And again, I pointed out to Stefanie that Jamie was 38, she had 2 children, she had a responsible position as our victim witness coordinator, she had a staff that she supervised, and that her husband was a teacher in Haralson County. That, there was, in my mind, if it really were a mistake, and believing what Jamie told me, if it really were a mistake, this was not the kind of thing that needed to be prosecuted if, in fact, there were a pretrial diversion program or some way to resolve it without going forward. And Stefanie said, that's fine. It's okay. After that discussion, Stefanie said, by the way, I've got a case in your county that I've been trying to resolve for the last couple of years. And I said, what is it? And she said it was a DUI. Client was on a motorcycle because, again, she advertised herself as the motorcycle rider's lawyer. She said he'd been arrested for DUI, and she had been over here, I don't know how many times when it had been on the trial calendar, I don't remember, but that the officer had left the Hiram Police Department and moved to the Sandy Springs Police Department. And it was difficult for the trial, so it had been lingering, and she said it's a lousy case anyway, or something. I don't know if she used that term or not, but she made the point to me that...
Alluded that it was a bad case.
Basically.
Okay.
And she said, I can almost certainly say, she said, would you look at it? I don't know if she used the word review it, but she said, would you look at it? And I said, sure, I'll do that. This is it, right here. Okay. So I don't know if it was that day or some other day, but I came back. She gave me his name. I pulled the file. I looked at it. It was after midnight. The defendant left a bar in Hiram on his motorcycle. Apparently, and I told you I was a police officer, apparently the officer was bushwhacking. And we've looked at we have a case management system, tracker. He made a lot of cases when he was with Hiram, a great many of which had to be dismissed or pled down. apparently he was bushwhacking to see who came out of the bar. The defendant was stopped. I'll take you down there and show you. The bar is more or less across the street from CVS. He was stopped before he got to the next corner, which is probably, well, I tell you right now, it's not the length of this courthouse. It's probably less than 60 yards. And the report said that he smelled of alcohol. Well, yeah, he'd been in a bar, had a drink. Said his eyes were bloodshot. Well, my eyes were bloodshot at 2 o'clock in the morning too. You know, if I'm out. There was no test. He let him keep his license, which I don't know how much you know about street cops, but if you stop somebody for DUI and you're going to arrest them for DUI and they refuse the test or there's no test available, you don't let them keep your license. But he let him keep his license. And I looked at it and I went and talked to the ADA to whom it was assigned and asked him about it. And he said, well, she's right. It's hard to get Officer Zimmerman here from...
Who was the ADA that was assigned to?
Eric Logan. And he was, I don't want to say he was brand new, but he was fairly new, but he's an experienced prosecutor. Came out of South Georgia.
And he said the same thing, it was a...
He looked at it and he said, it's not something we're going to win. It's not a good case. It's just one of those cases that, you know, we filed an accusation, but, you know, the fact situation, there's no test. Quite frankly, any rookie defense attorney could have gotten it on a directed verdict for that matter. So I looked at it and Stefanie was right. Now, just so you know, and I told Jimmy this yesterday, Jimmy's been in here and asked me about cases that were pending. Roy Barnes has been in here asking me about cases that were pending. Bob Barr has been in here. Vic Reynolds has been in here asking me before he got elected, right after I got elected, some case that we had over here of his. It's not unusual. The difference was that Stefanie didn't come over here. I happened to be in her office at the time. I looked at it and I said, yeah, I think Stefanie's right. This is not a case that we need to be bothered with. We got other fish to fry. And usually when I say that to people, I tell them this, and tell you. When I first took office, there was a stack of files on a desk in a vacant office, and they said they were just files that needed to be sorted out. And I went back there and sat down and sorted through them. And one of the cases was 2 teenage girls, and I understand, I've been told by women this is a chauvinistic way to describe it, got in a cat fight on the school bus. And when they got off the school bus, they took it outside. Somebody called the sheriff, maybe the bus driver, I don't know who, but they both got arrested for a fray. Well, I can remember arresting people for a fray, but I looked at that and I thought, yeah, really, I got other things to do as district attorney than prosecute 2 teenage girls who got in a cat fight. And that case got dismissed. It's prosecutorial discretion. That's the phrase that we use when we look at a case and say, this is not worth pursuing.
When you reviewed the case, were you aware that they had just gone through a motion?
I looked at everything in the file, so I was familiar with what was ever. And yes, I did. I've reviewed it since then, and I know now that they had. I'm satisfied that when I looked at it almost 2 years ago, yeah, and of course Eric had been through it, so he knew it.
And so when you talked to Eric, he was saying, I mean, he'd been through the motion. He was saying that
he
it wasn't a
basically
good
said
case.
the same thing.
Okay. He didn't say it was stronger because they were granted. No. Okay.
Well, I honestly don't think that would have made any difference. Okay. Well, actually, this would have been his first DUI because the other case was reduced to reckless driving.
Right.
So, but anyway, I looked at it, I thought about it, I appreciated the situation with getting the officer here and the fact that we have other things to do. And I asked the court to enter a knock price.
Okay. You said right after you had a discussion about Jamie while you were at the office of Stefanie is when she brought up the topic about her case. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
It wasn't a day later or several days later?
It was that same day.
Okay.
But I think if the idea that it was tit for tat or quid pro quo, that's not appropriate, because I had already asked her about Jamie's case. She said if she were willing to do the online course, the case could be resolved. And then she said, by the way, I've got a case pending in your court.
Okay.
But it wasn't. But even if it had been, I mean, that's prosecutors and attorneys do that every day.
Okay. And did Jamie ask you to go on her behalf to handle?
I told her what I was going to do.
Okay.
I don't know that she asked me. She asked me for help the night she got arrested. And she was concerned about the arrest being on GCIC. And I told her I would see what I could do as her friend and as her boss, you know. And I don't remember specifically, but I probably had said at some time, you know, if you need a lawyer, we'll see who we can find out in Cedartown to represent you. Because I know all the lawyers out there. I practiced law for over 30 years before I got this job.
Did you tell her that you're going to go out to Cedartown and meet with Stefanie about the case?
I can't remember specifically saying words to that effect, but I'm satisfied that I did.
Okay.
Because I would have had to ask her if she were willing to agree to the suggestion that Stefanie had made that it could be dismissed if she were willing to take the course.
Okay.
It wasn't done in secret.
Okay. I wasn't suggesting it was. I was just.
No, I understand.
I'm just trying to get the understanding of how it worked. Did you take the initiative to handle her case, or did
I didn't handle her case. I spoke on her behalf as her employer. I'm not her lawyer.
Okay.
I can't, quote, handle her case. I'm not allowed to do that.
Okay.
Like I said, if I'd been a banker and she'd have been a teller, I'd have done exactly the same thing.
You're not a banker, though.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
So,
I'm not.
I mean, I'll do that analogy, but it works here.
Right.
Okay. So technically you were working on her behalf. You went down there on her behalf as a friend to see what you could do on her case. Is that accurate?
Yes, to see what Stefanie would tell me is the way things are handled in the city court in Cedartown. I've never been to city court in Cedartown.
Did you make any suggestions to her about what she should do with the case? Like you should null prosecute, you should dismiss this case, or anything like that?
I asked her if there were a pretrial diversion program.
Okay. So you never alluded to the fact, hey, is there any way you could dismiss this case?
I don't know, I might have. I explained to her that Jamie's explanation was that it was a mistake.
Right.
And that Jamie said it was a matter of the item. She told me that she had an item she was trying to scan, that her daughter had something she was trying to buy for her older brother who was in Athens with her husband, and that it wouldn't scan, and she thought she had thrown it up on top of the chewing gum rack there in the self-service at Walmart. She told me it was a mistake. Whether I said to Stefanie, can this case be dismissed or not, I don't know.
Okay.
But I may have. I don't know. I don't remember.
But you
I remember that she told me it could be dismissed if, again, Jamie were willing to do the pre-trial, online course in shoplifting.
And what is your relationship with Jack Browning?
He's been my good friend ever since he went to work for Tom Murphy.
Okay. So when he told you that it was a good case against her,
he said what he had been told.
Okay.
He said, you know, what he was told, it was a dead bang case.
Okay.
Jamie said she went through the self-checkout, and I'm going to tell you, because it doesn't matter now. She told me that she stopped and was looking at her receipt while she was still in the store when she was approached by security. Now, I know enough about law to know that you're supposed to wait till you get outside the store. They don't always do that. The other thing is, she told me later, sometime after that day, that when she got home, there were other items in her bag that were not on the receipt. She told me that, but that was sometime later. It wasn't that day.
Okay.
But again, it's like this case. It's like Mr. whatever the guy, the defendant's name was.
Alex Harrell.
Yeah. There are good cases and there are bad cases. There are cases that we can go into court and win, and there are cases we can go into court and we couldn't win if we tried.
So on this case right here, why, if it was a bad case when it came in and being reviewed, why did they go through the motions to have a motion hearing to grant prior acts?
Trying to get something that would make it viable.
Okay, and then they got it.
Well,
so
not in my opinion, because that didn't change the facts. The fact that they had a prior arrest for DUI that had been reduced to reckless didn't necessarily bolster that case.
Okay.
And I might interject something here. I've been practicing almost 50 years. And of course, practice with Vic. There are many times when we go through the motions, we don't win a motion.
Right.
Later on, DA says, I just, don't have enough here, and I'll dismiss it for you. So it's not an unusual thing. We do it in the criminal justice system a lot.
Right. What is the common practice at this office? I know I've worked with some district attorneys, and their stance is if you make us go through the motion, we're not going to lower our plea offer. Or if you make us go to a hearing, then the previous plea offer we offered is it, or we're going to trial.
I went through that with Bo McLean, who's a judge now in Douglas County, when he was Chief Assistant DA. I had a motion to suppress. I said, let's talk. He said, no, we'll have your motion. He said, dismiss your motion, we'll talk. I said, come on, Bo. Yeah, I thought it was a fairly decent motion to suppress. He said, no, we're not going to talk until we've had your motion, or you can dismiss your motion, we'll talk. I said, I can't do that to my client. There's a certain amount of malpractice involved. If you're in private practice and you don't make the motion, okay? If you don't make the motion, that's probably malpractice. If you should make a motion to suppress and you don't, and you go to trial and you lose, then your client will take it up as ineffective assistance.
Right.
I tried the motion and I lost. And Bo, like within 2 minutes, and I know Jimmy dealt with Bo for years, just like I did. As soon as the motion was denied, he said, okay, 6 months probation, $300 fine. It was a possession case, marijuana. Okay? I mean, like Jimmy said, you file the motion, you go through the motion, and then you work the case.
I'll give you a good example. I started a trial in Cherokee Monday morning on an aggravated assault. The state wouldn't offer me anything but time. We got a day and a half into the trial, and they decided, well, maybe we need to get rid of this case, so they offered me probation, straight probation. So it's not an unusual thing. It's all part of the
totally agree.
Give and take of the criminal justice system.
Right.
If you
Yeah,
got a case that ought to be dealt with, you just need to do it. Sometimes it takes a while.
And that's what you do with that. I was looking at the Daily Report. Paul Howard said in the Daily Report, August 22nd, the special responsibility conferred on district attorneys by the citizens of the county they serve and the laws of this country and state is not merely to pursue convictions, but, fundamentally, to seek justice, period. That's what we do. Okay? Major Hayes, Cobb County Sheriff's Department, was traveling on Bill Caruth Parkway. Unfortunately, some neighbors of mine came up the hill to the stop sign where Laird Road runs into Bill Caruth Parkway. I stop at that stop sign every single morning on the way to work. That's the way I come. Everywhere else is way out of the way. I don't like Bill Caruth Parkway because it's noisy and it's a pain, but it's the way I go to work. And I stop at that stop sign because it comes up to the grade level where Bill Caruth Parkway is. Go by the house and see. Go by my house and go to Bill Caruth Parkway. You stop at the stop sign. Parts of it were still, I think they were putting in the turn lane. Whatever they were doing, they were yellow, the orange and white barrels. Major Hayes broadsided the van and killed 2 people in the van. He was indicted by the grand jury. Mr. Geary, who was formerly the chief assistant in DeKalb,
Don?
and then worked for Vic Reynolds, if you know
I do.
Mr. Geary, called and said, I'm going to represent him, and we've got our own expert. I said, fine, we'll duke it out. And after we got the indictment, we learned from the trooper, and for somebody, I don't remember for whom, I didn't handle it personally, my chief assistant and one of my ADAs handled it. There was a witness who said that the Hightower car ran the stop sign. Major Hayes' vehicle did not have one of those chips that tells you how fast you were going when the collision occurred, like modern vehicles do. Apparently they give the old vehicles to the superior officers, which I think is a great idea. Having been a police officer and having driven the rags while the captain's got the new cars, he didn't have one of those chips, so we didn't have any way to prove except the skirt team that said he had to be traveling at X number of miles an hour. Our theory of the case was he was speeding. He was on his way to work. He was hustling. Hightowers came to the stop sign, saw him way down Bill Carruth and pulled out, not realizing how fast he was going. I will not express my personal opinion. I come to that stop sign every morning. You'd have to be a damn fool to run it because Bill Carruth is a busy roadway. But now we have a witness that says they ran the stop sign. All right, now what? Excuse me. It was pled down, and I think it was speeding, because my assistant DA and my chief assistant, actually the senior assistant and my assistant DA came to me and said, if we go to trial, we can't prove it. And we've got to divulge to the defense, to Geary, that we have this witness. If we'd have known about the witness before we went to the grand jury, we probably would have put the case to the grand jury just, we do that just to be safe. But if that witness had testified, and we would have put the witness up, we probably would not have gotten an indictment. But now we've got an indictment. But we proceeded on the speeding and did away with the vehicular homicide charge. That's the kind of thing that we do. We have to do. Jimmy's holding.
I do understand. I understand these examples. I truly do, and I understand that happens every day. There's a little difference in this case. There's a vested personal interest in this circumstance right here.
What's the vested personal interest?
Yours and Jamie's. So we're
in my dismissing this case?
The examples that you all are giving me have to do with, there's some issues there, some issues here. But what I'm talking about in this case is you went down and asked the solicitor to dismiss the case against Jamie.
I don't know that I would characterize it that way. I went down to ask the solicitor again,
what
I told you
do.
before. No, I went down and asked her what the procedure was in the city court.
Okay.
I asked her if there were a pretrial diversion program.
Okay.
I was told there was not. I was told that it was possible that a case could be dismissed, and I may have said, well, is there a way to dismiss it? I don't know whether I said that or not. I don't remember.
Okay.
But I was told, yes, that we do that if they take this course on shoplifting.
Okay.
Okay.
And by the
That
way, I
case-
have a case over in your circuit. Can you look at it?
Say that again.
And then she said, by the way, I have a case over in your circuit. Can you look at it?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. And so then you looked at it and you null-processed it.
Yes.
And then she dismissed the charges on Jamie.
I don't remember which happened first.
Okay. Did you go to court with Jamie?
I went to the court with her, yes.
Okay.
I did.
And did you represent her there or help her in any
I
way?
did not represent her. I can't do that.
Okay.
I didn't even speak to Stefanie.
Well, if you know that you can't represent her, then why even have the appearance of you representing her by going down
I didn't have
there?
the appearance of my representing her. I was her boss.
Okay.
I went as her friend and as her boss, not as her attorney.
Okay. So did she come to you and say specifically, will you go and talk to the solicitor and see what you can do?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah, I think where the thing is, as I understand what you're looking at, what we're saying is that one didn't really precipitate the other, which is, I mean, if Stefanie had called him up on the telephone and said, hey, can you look at this case, he would have done the same thing, whether there was anything going on with Ms. White or not. Because I've done the same thing.
Right, but there was. I mean, it's all about perception. And I'm sure y'all can see, y'all been doing this a long time. You can see the perception. Where the
I
city
see the
DA
perception,
goes to a, the solicitor, so one prosecutor to another prosecutor and said, my employee's been arrested, what can we do? And then in the same conversation, oh yeah, I've got a private client that has a case in your office.
Yeah,
What
I mean,
can you do?
I see why you're here,
So,
obviously, but
You know,
of course, our position basically is that one really did not have anything to do with the other. It just coincided, but it really didn't have anything. He didn't dismiss the case because she was going to
Right.
do something to help
Okay.
him.
Why would you
So-
not go to, and this maybe is something I need to do is interview this person, but why didn't you go to, was it Eric, and say, hey, this case is assigned to you, what are you going to do with it?
I basically did.
Okay. And what did he tell you he was going to do with it? He told you he was going to null process?
He told me, no, he didn't tell me he was going to not process. He told me that there were problems with the case because the officer had moved from Hiram and was now in Sandy Springs and was difficult to get here for trial, and that they had had I'm sure he told me about the motion. I don't remember that. I won't tell you that I remember something I don't remember. I don't remember whether we discussed the motion or not. But I remember that I asked Ert about it, and he said it was just not a case that was hot to be tried. It was not a case that was especially strong, that it was one of the cases that he was having to deal with. And I asked him if he would look at it. He and I talked about it. I said, would it be appropriate to null process it? And he said, yeah, that'd probably be the best way to get rid of it. That's my memory of it, and whether he said those words or not, I don't know. But I'm his boss.
So he's going to do what you say then.
I'm sorry?
So he'll do what you say.
He'll do what I say.
Right.
I'm not sure he'd do what I say if I told him to do something illegal or that he thought was morally wrong. But I think if I said I've looked at this case and it looks like something we couldn't win anyway, I think he'd say, yeah, you're probably right.
Okay. But it goes back to the issue at hand. Why would you, I mean, he's handling the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why wouldn't you just say, hey, contact Stefanie about this case and see what's going on with it? Because she's saying it's taking too long and you're having issues. Why did you feel like you had to get involved and you had to be the one to dismiss the case?
I was already involved because Stefanie had already asked me, in the same way that if somebody comes to the office, like any of the people that I mentioned or any of the lawyers that I mentioned, come in here and ask me, I will typically tell them, well, let's talk to the assistant DA. She wasn't here, so I went and talked to the assistant DA instead. Why wouldn't I do that? I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily do it the same way every time, one way or another.
Okay. Did you ever send any emails to Stefanie or?
I don't remember.
Okay. And do you recall the time frame that all these events took place? I know you said she was arrested on October 14th.
And we went to court on November the 17th.
Okay. So when do you think the discussion between you and Stefanie was?
I can't tell you.
Like a week after the arrest, the week of the arrest?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I can't manufacture an answer. If I don't remember, I don't remember. I have no idea. If you want to turn your recorder off, I need to go to the men's room.
That's fine.
And have a condition that makes that appropriate. I'll be right back.
You got to look into that issue.
Starting back at 12:38.
Are we back?
Yes, sir.
Well, let me tell you one thing, or two things. Just so you know, I never said to Stefanie, I'll do this for you if you'll do that for me.
Okay.
Stefanie never said to me, I'll do this for you if you'll do that for me. That was not part of it. Had nothing to do with it. I went out to see Stefanie, whom I knew and had known for 20 years. to see if I could help an employee of mine, and it didn't matter who it was. If it had been an ADA, an investigator, anybody else, I'd have done exactly the same thing.
Okay.
Because I care about the people that work for me.
I know I asked you at the beginning, but you and Jamie were not in a relationship, correct?
We were not.
Okay.
And I'm sure y'all are familiar with a number of null processes that get done during a year, quite a large number,
I'm
for
sure.
various unknown reasons.
Yep.
So,
Do you have a
if y'all needed
caseload?
those, we could provide them to you.
Okay. Most of the time, I work with Danny Porter a lot, and he just takes the big murder cases or something like that, or corruption cases. Is that typical here?
I was with the Atlanta Police Department before you were born. No, I'm not making any smart remarks. Maybe before you were born, I'm not real sure. But I went to work for them in 1966. I was
No, he was alive.
No.
I was a fingerprint roller and a crime scene technician. The year I worked with the homicide people in Atlanta was the year we were the homicide capital of the world. We had 283 homicides. Compare that to today in Chicago, that's nothing. But in 1967, that was the most of any major city. And I worked over 100 of them. I know more about homicide. I went 2 years to the National Death Investigation Seminar in Warrensburg, Missouri. Special education in homicide investigation. Do you know how to tell how long a body's been laying there?
That's my crime scene specialist.
I do. I am. I was. Then I went to work for the East Point Police Department, and I worked as a uniform officer and as a detective. And I became a specialist in homicide, more than I had been. When I came here, I said, if we get homicide cases and you feel like you need it, call me. Come see me, and we'll sit down and go over it. We'll talk about it. The only one in which I have actively participated so far was a mother-daughter murder case that we won, had a new trial, and then we lost. You'll love this, Jimmy. The foreman of the jury said there was a mother and daughter and the victim in the same room. And he was shot in the back of the head here, and the bullet came out here because he ducked when she shot him. The foreman of the jury told me after the verdict, she said, well, we know he didn't shoot himself, but y'all didn't tell us what happened. That's the only case I have actively participated in, other than having argued a couple of motions, argued in the Supreme Court in the same case. But no, I do not carry a caseload, but I've got a chief assistant who is getting more and more familiar with homicide cases, although I doubt that he knows. I'm sorry if this sounds arrogant, but I doubt that he knows what I know. I doubt that any of the investigators at the Paulding County Sheriff's Office know what I know. Just because, like I say, I spent a lot of time being specially trained, and dead bodies typically don't change.
Who's your chief assistant?
Matthew Rollins.
Did he ever provide you with a statement from Jamie White?
He didn't, no.
Who provided you the statement from Jamie White?
Laura McDonald with the Attorney General's office.
And when did you receive that statement?
I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago.
How did you receive it? Email, mail?
Email.
Email. Was she the one representing you at the time?
Yes.
Okay. And did she say how she got a hold of it? Or
No.
how she received it?
No. I'd love to know, but
there was an email that you sent to Stefanie, and it was on Wednesday, November 8, 2017, and you basically say, you know that we would prefer an outright dismissal of this case based on prosecutorial decision to avoid a possible GCIC record. That date, would that be right after the meeting that y'all had, or would that be...
I've told you before, I don't remember what date I went out.
Okay.
If she remembers, fine, but I don't.
All right.
But it was obviously sometime after the 14th of October.
Okay. You don't recall if that was a follow-up email or if that email was prior to
I don't
the...
even recall writing that email.
Okay.
If you say I did, I'm not going to deny it. I have no idea.
Okay. And do you normally do a tagline Dick at the bottom?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
But again, I've known her for 20 years.
Okay.
You do when you email me.
Sorry?
You do when you email me. Because I've
Yeah.
known you 20 years.
Yeah.
I memean, I've been working these types of cases for not as long as you've been working homicides. I know that. But it stands out to me when in the same conversation, one is discussing one case and then all of a sudden another case comes up and both cases are dismissed. It stands out. And that's why I'm here. And again, I'm just looking for the facts. That's what GBI does. All we're doing is fact finders. And this will be turned over to the AG's office to make a decision. But, I have to interview everyone, so I just want to make sure that I'm getting the most accurate information from every single person. And some of the things I've been getting from other people, it's not 100% cohesive. So that's why I'm just trying to figure out what happened.
Be candid with me and tell me what you're getting from other people. I've told you to the best of my knowledge and memory.
Right.
But I've also told you, I don't remember specifically what day I went to see Stefanie.
Right.
I've told you that I went out there to ask her to look at the case, to tell me if it could be dismissed, to tell me if there were a pretrial diversion program. And I've told you what I remember her telling me.
Right.
And I've also told you that after that discussion was over and done with, she mentioned that she had a case here that she was trying to resolve. And I've told you that I never said, I'll do this for you if you'll do that for me. She never said, I'll do that for you if you'll do this for me.
Right.
There was never any... to be honest with you, I don't think there'd be anything wrong if that had been. But it never occurred to me to even think that way.
Okay.
I didn't go out there thinking, well, I'll see if she's got a case that...
Right.
I didn't have any idea.
Right. But when you got there, the opportunity presented itself.
When I got there, no. If the opportunity presented itself, it was
Her to you.
her to me.
That's
I
what I'm
didn't know
saying.
anything about it.
So I mean, in the same thing, I'm not just looking at what you did. I'm looking at what she did.
I understand.
So, if one person did something wrong, then both people did something wrong. So, my investigation is clear from the Attorney General's office is to investigate this incident between the two dismissals on both sides. So I'm looking into her as well. So she is a subject of my investigation. So for her to proposition you would be wrong and would be illegal, right?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by proposition.
Yeah,
if you mean...
That sounds sexual to me.
That's not what I'm referring to at all, especially not dealing with all this other crap that's going on. What I'm referring to is if she propositioned you, hey, I have a case over there. If you look at it and see what you can do, then I'll see what I can do on this one. That never was said to you.
No.
Okay.
By either
That's
one
what
of us.
I'm asking.
No,
Okay.
it was not. And like I say, that would have been wrong from a number of perspectives, but illegal? I'm not sure it'd be illegal.
Okay.
And let me put it to you this way. If somebody came in here and said, this is what happened, and I looked at it, I might say, okay, maybe that's not the way it should have been done. And Jimmy knows, I was chairman of the State Bar Committee on Professionalism. I was on the committee for 12 years. I was chair for 6 years. I might look at it and say, well, that's not very professional. Or that may even be, cloudy ethical issue. But is it illegal?
All right, so I just want to make sure I get the events right. So prior to you going over to Cedartown and speaking with Ms. Burford, did you have a conversation with Jamie about going out there?
I don't remember.
Okay. When you got done with that meeting, did you call or come back over here and speak to Jamie about the meeting?
I cannot tell you that I remember it because I don't, but I know that it was based on what Stefanie had said to me. It was predicated on Jamie's agreeing to do the online course on shoplifting. I have no idea what that means. I don't know what you do in an online course on shoplifting. But it was predicated on that, so I must have, at some point, spoken to Jamie about it.
Okay.
I don't know whether that's in her statement or not. I've got it. I read it. Gave it to Jimmy yesterday. I don't remember whether that's in there or not.
Okay.
But I must have, in order to be able to tell her, okay, on the 17th, you've got to go to court.
Okay. I saw a statement too. Did you ever tell her that you had to do some horse trading?
No. I don't know whether I told her that I went and spoke to Stefanie. Whether I used the term horse trading or not, I don't know. But that would have been inaccurate because that's not what I did.
So, okay. So you didn't tell her that you did horse trading?
I don't recall using the phrase horse trading.
Okay.
Of course, she recorded all the conversations, so who the hell knows what she's got.
Okay. And what would horse trading be to you?
I guess horse trading would be looking for an accommodation from somebody based on another accommodation.
Okay.
The kind of thing you're saying is inappropriate. But whether I did that or not, or whether I claim to have done that or not, is two different things. And I might have said to Jamie to impress her, yeah, I did a little horse trading on your behalf.
Okay.
But talk to Stefanie, and I'm sure you will. If you're investigating both of us, talk
Right.
to Stefanie. I don't think her memory will be different than mine
Okay.
because, well, she's younger than I am. She probably got a better memory than I do.
I think one thing that's
made a-
important. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You made a comment about trying to impress her. What do you mean by that?
Just to let her know that I was looking after her as an employee,
Okay.
that I wanted her to understand. When I had a conversation with her on the night she got arrested, she told me that her husband checked her phone, that she was having trouble at home, that things had not been good. She wanted to come see me and talk to me about it before all this happened. What I was doing at that point was trying to reinforce in her that people here cared about her, that I cared about her, that we were interested in her future and were going to be supportive of her.
Okay.
Okay? Because she had told me. She even said that night she didn't know. I asked her if she were in love with somebody because there were rumors that she was having an affair with somebody in the office, which has been discussed every which way now. And I asked her, I said, are you in love with somebody else? And she said, I'm not sure I even know what it means to be in love anymore. And I just wanted, this is a 38-year-old woman with 2 children and a husband. And I wanted her to know, this is the crux of the whole thing, I wanted her to know that I was supportive and that other people in the office were supportive of her.
Okay. So it wasn't a means to try to develop a relationship with her?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay. And like I said, I don't want to get into all the details of the other stuff that's going on.
Yeah, I'd much rather have
but I'm just trying to
civil
get
lawyer.
right. But I'm just trying to get to the basis of, you know, when you said you were trying to impress, it wasn't you were doing all these things to help her out to try to impress her to develop a relationship.
That's
It
correct.
was you were trying to help her out because she was going through a tough time in her life, and you felt like she needed someone to help.
Based on what she had told me,
Okay.
yes. I gave her a signed print. I was a cartoonist for the Red and Black when I was at Georgia. I've been a cartoonist for a long time. Wrote for the Red and Black. I collect cartoons. I read the funnies every day, and I have a Go Comics page that I get that carries cartoons that you can't get in the Atlanta newspapers. One of them is a comic strip called Mutts. And I found a strip that I thought was especially applicable to the situation in which she found herself. And I ordered a signed print for her office, not for her personally, but for her office. You can walk around here and look at the things. I've got one posted back here that I've got from the same, well, not from the same artist, from the artist that is now disgraced, back here hanging on the wall. I'll walk you back and show it to you. Most of the artwork in the hallways is stuff that I brought into the office, just like what's in this room right now. But I got that for her to hang in her office, to put up somewhere, so she could look at it and have her self-worth reinforced.
Okay.
Okay? Now, that's been characterized as sexual harassment because I gave her a gift.
I know nothing about any of that stuff.
I'm sorry?
So, I don't know anything about any of that stuff, about the signs.
I'm just telling you.
So.
That was my goal from the beginning, was to try to help her. This was self-destructive behavior.
Okay.
Being caught for shoplifting. And when she tells me that she stopped and was looking at her receipt, you can put any kind of psychological construction on that you want to. Did she want to get caught? I mean, why did she call me? Why didn't she call somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't she call? We had a guy here that was a senior ADA.
Who does she report to?
Me.
Okay. And what is y'all's policy here if someone is arrested? Are they supposed to contact the district attorney?
I need to know about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fines and fees. Was she assessed any fines or fees?
I don't remember.
Okay. Did you pay any fines or fees for her?
There was, and let me tell you this. Let me back up and tell you this. In late summer of that year, she told us that her father had been diagnosed with cancer.
Of 2017?
Yes.
Okay.
Her sister, Chrissy, set up a GoFundMe page and asked for money for his cancer treatment. Her father, their father, is an itinerant jack of all trades handyman. My understanding is he used to be an itinerant preacher, and I don't know that for a fact. They were collecting money for him in the GoFundMe page. The people in this office took up money. I haven't read what was in the paper yesterday, or I didn't watch what was on television last night, but I'm accused of having given her money. We all did. Yeah, I gave her money. We all did. We took up money in the office to give her because she told me, I don't know what I'm going to do if he can't work. I'm having enough trouble keeping my family taken care of, much less taking care of my disabled mother, her middle sister, her younger but not youngest sister, who had moved in with a child into her parents' home, and her father, who now has cancer. She said, I'm having enough trouble with all of that. I don't know how I'm going to manage with my own family, much less now having to help support them. So we took up money for her. And I gave more money because I make more money than anybody in this office. A couple that are close, but I make more money than anybody in this office. So yes, I gave money to her for her family. Everything I ever gave her was for her family, and I gave her father money that she probably doesn't even know about. Just directly, just send him a check. Here, because you can't work, and because I don't know if you go to church, but there is I want to say 1 John 3:17, and I'm not a Bible thumper, don't get me wrong, that says, if I have and my neighbor does not, what kind of Christian are you if you don't respond to the need? So I sent him a lot of money just because I knew he couldn't work, but I never said anything to Jamie about it because it was between me and him, not between me and her. So, yes, when she got the letter from Walmart, which you're probably familiar with, it says, okay, you got caught for shoplifting and we're going to either sue you or you're going to pay us $150. I sent them the $150. And I told her, she said, do I need to pay you back? I said, no, don't worry about it. Because she was already having trouble supporting her own family and her helping her mother and father's family.
Did you ever tell her that you were sending checks to her father?
No.
Okay.
I just said, that was between me and him. Her father may have told her.
Okay,
But
so
I never told her.
did you ever get a call from a bank about trying to get?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Well, I didn't. My wife did.
Okay.
She called me and she said, the bank called about a check that you gave David McLean and wanted to know if it was okay. And I said, if they gave it to him, yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
So I didn't get the call, but my wife did.
All right. I mean, trying to impress her with that, why wouldn't you tell her that you were giving her dad money too?
Why would I? It's none of her business. It's between me and her dad.
Okay.
Well, see, all right, back up and think a minute, Rocky. I'm trying to impress her. I'm trying to make her see what a great guy I am. So I'm giving your dad a lot of money. Wasn't any of her damn business.
Okay.
It was between me and her dad,
All right. What was her dad's name?
David. James David McLean.
All right.
In the same way that you don't want to get into the civil stuff, in the same way that if I wanted sex, it would have been a piece of cake to drive out to Cedartown and say, okay, I'll get you out of this, but you and me are going to talk. I didn't do that.
Right.
I could have also said, she called me and said, get me out of this. I'll do anything you say. I didn't say that. I just told the truth. She called me and said, you have to fire me. I've been arrested. I went out there and got her out of it, didn't ask for a damn thing in return.
And you've made that comment. I'm assuming you would have done the same thing for any other employee.
Any
That was
employee
arrested.
in this office.
Have you ever had an employee arrested other than this one?
No, I had one former employee that got arrested, but that was didn't have anything to do. As far as I know, I haven't had anybody else been arrested.
All right. I'm assuming all this money that you gave was out of a personal checking account?
Yes, sir.
All right. Who do you bank with?
Synovus.
Have you had any discussions with Stefanie recently or in the past year, past 2 years?
No.
Okay.
And I thought about calling her, but I thought, no. You want to investigate, you investigate.
Okay.
If she says something different, she says something different. But
Right.
I'm going to go. I'm going to tell you what I told you to begin with. I'm telling you to the best of my memory. I think she would be offended if someone suggested to her that it were tit for tat.
Okay. So after you dismissed the Alex Harrell case, and I could be pronouncing his last name wrong, I'm not sure. How did you tell Stefanie that you dismissed it?
I probably sent her a copy of the NOPROS.
Okay, so you just mailed her a copy of the NOPROS.
Probably.
Okay.
Well, we do that to defense attorneys.
Right, of course.
No matter. And you know that stack that Jimmy's sitting there in front of, those are all the prosecutorial discretion NOPROSs that we've entered just in the last, I don't know how long.
About a year
They were just pulled yesterday
or so.
when Jimmy came in.
Okay. May I have a copy?
You can have all those.
Sure.
Okay.
I'll run you a copy and I'll keep those. Yeah.
Does it break down which prosecutor was in court and who submitted the no process?
All of the prosecutors who asked for it are signed off on the. When I came here, I don't claim to know more than anybody else. But to go to the judge and say, I want to null process this case, the law says the district attorney has the discretion to null process the case. If you read the code section, it says that we, the DAs, have that discretion. But the proper way to do it is to file a motion to request a null process.
Right.
And I told them when I took office, you file basically this form. It says, dismissal of a warrant or request for entry of order of null prosecute. And you file that with a judge. That's our requesting. I don't think the judge has the discretion, based on the code section, to say no. They can say, a judge can say, we're going to null process this case, and I can say, no, you're not.
Right.
Because that's not your call. It's my call. But this is the form, and this was entered by, the request was filed by Emily Harson, senior ADA, asked for a null process, prosecutorial discretion.
Is it common for you
And then Judge
personally to
Beaver
file
signed.
that motion?
I'm sorry?
Is it common for you personally to file that motion?
I have
guess I'll get
filed a couple, I guess.
Okay.
But like I say, I don't ordinarily I don't have a caseload.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to see. You said earlier you didn't have a caseload, so would it be normal for you personally to go to court and file an all process?
I go to court every once in a while, but I don't recall specifically on the null process that I may have signed.
Okay.
But
Is this case we're talking about going to be the only one you've null processed?
I don't think so.
8 years.
I don't think so. But I don't know. I don't remember. I can remember the form and I can remember filling it out. but I don't remember what case, if any. I'm sorry.
No, that's
I'm
fine.
giving you an
Yeah,
honest
obviously,
answer.
yeah. We can-
And the chances are that when Eric Logan and I talked about this case, I probably said, well, if there's no problem in I'll prosecute, I'll just go ahead and prepare it to keep him from having to fool with it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because I'm the boss. I know how to do it. And yeah,
I think one thing to keep in mind, I've looked at this case from a standpoint of a defense lawyer, it's a crappy case. We win cases all the time when there are no, there's no fields.
Right.
So how you going to prove it if you got no field and all you got's bloodshot eyes? Smell alcohol, not enough.
This is the null pros. That's the one we're referring to. I just want to make sure I have the right one.
appears to be.
Okay. Guess that's it. Thank you for meeting with me. I appreciate it.
No problem.